Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we will learn about transform property in CSS. The transform property allows you to visually manipulate an element by translating, rotating, scaling, and skewing. Let's start with the first one, translate. We can translate or move elements across X, Y, and Z axis. Say we have this div and we want to move it towards the right hand side. For this, we can use translate X and give it a positive value, say 20 pixels. So let's inspect this. Let's give it a value, say transform translate X, and let's give it a value, say 20 pixels. And as you can see, it moved towards the right. So if I keep increasing the value, it keeps moving towards the right hand side. Similarly, if I want to move this to the left hand side, I could give it a negative value. And as you can see, it's moving towards the left hand side. Similarly, if you wanted to move our element top and bottom, we could use translate Y. So let's try that. So instead of translate X, let's select translate Y. Now, if we want to move it to the bottom of the screen, so we could give it a positive value. And as you can see, so when I increase the value, my element is moving towards the bottom. Similarly, if I want to move it towards the top, I could give it a negative value. And as you can see, it's moving towards the top. This must have reminded you of positioning elements using top, right, bottom, and left properties. And yes, you should use these properties to position elements. But when you want to move things for transition or animations, you should use translate X and translate Y. This translate has a shorthand property also. It's called translate, so let's give that a try. So this accepts two values, one for translate X and one for translate Y. Or in other words, one for horizontal and one for vertical. So let's try that. Say 50 pixels towards the right and 50 pixels towards the bottom. When I increase this value, it moves towards the bottom. And when I reduce this value, it moves towards the top. Similarly, if I increase this value, it moves towards the right. And when I reduce it, it moves towards the left. That's all for the translate property. So moving on to the next one, which is rotate. As the name suggests, we can use this property to rotate our HTML elements. We can rotate elements along the x-axis, y-axis, and the z-axis. Let's try an example to understand it better. Now, to use the rotate property, we could simply add transform, and in the value, we could use rotate. So let's say rotate x. All right, so if we increase this value, and as you can see, our element is rotating along the horizontal axis. Similarly, when I reduce the value, it again rotates along the horizontal axis. Let's add a text inside this div so that it gives us a better clarity. So coming back here, let's say first div. Let's save it. Coming back here, let's give it the value. So transform and rotate x 45 degrees. Now when I increase the value, as you can see, the element is rotating. Similarly, when I reduce this value, say 180 degrees, it is rotated along the horizontal axis by 180 degrees. Similarly, if I make it 0, so it comes back to the normal position. Similarly, we can use the rotate Y property. So this rotate Y property, what it does is it rotates the element across the vertical axis. Let's try increasing this value. And as you can see, as the value increases, our element keeps on rotating along the vertical axis. Similarly, if I keep increasing it, it rotates and keeps on rotating along the vertical axis. Similarly, we can use rotate Z. So when we increase the value, as you can see, it is rotating across the Z axis. So Z axis is the line which is perpendicular to your screen. Similarly, when we reduce the value, it rotates anti-clockwise. That's all for this rotate property. Moving on to the next property, which is scale. So let's remove this and let's use scale. So scale X, let's say 2. So what this scale X does is it stretches your component horizontally, and this value represents the times of the normal value. So if I say 2, that means twice the normal value. Or if I say 0.5, so that means half the normal value. So if I bring it back to 1, so right now, if you notice this first div text, this is how it looks. But when I reduce the value, even the text shrinks. So it's not just the box, it scales in and out the entire content. Similarly, we can use scale Y as well. And as you can see, when I increase the value, the box size increases vertically. Even this has a shorthand property called scale. So this accepts two values, one for horizontal and one for vertical. So as you can see, when I change different values, it changes accordingly. Moving on to the next property, which is skew. This property is used to tilt elements left and right. Let's try an example to understand better. So first let's use skew X. Let's say 0 degrees. So when I increase this value, it tilts our element towards the left hand side. So in the anti-clockwise. Similarly, when I go in negative degrees, it tilts our element towards the right hand side. So this is how skew X works. We can tilt the element across Y axis also. So if I increase the value, it's moving towards the bottom. So it's tilting towards the bottom. Similarly, when I reduce it, it's moving towards the top. And that's it, guys, for all the transform properties. That's all for today, guys. If there is something that you did not understand, feel free to drop a comment and we will discuss it. See you in the next video. Bye and take care.